What's up guys, I'm Zach and welcome back to Workshop Edits and welcome to episode 6 of my tiny office build series in my backyard. In today's episode, we are going to be tackling drywalling. Now I am a total noob at this, so hopefully the research that I did and the tips and tricks that I give along the way, as well as just the detailing of how I tackled my particular build is super insightful for you guys because I learned a ton along the way.
Why are you riding?
Let's go ahead and get started.
Got the entire exterior of the build all finished up, and I also installed a couple of these modern looking farmhouse sconces that are dusk to dawn, so they turn on and they have like Edison low temperature light bulbs, and it looks really good. Like, it's really exciting just to have the entire exterior done so we can move on to finishing the inside. So we're going to start with drywall.
So I've never done drywall before, so this video will definitely not be like a comprehensive how to do it. I've done a huge amount of research and I'll actually link probably what I found to be the most helpful videos that are just like very good step-by-steps if you are a total noob like me to doing drywall. But I can at least walk you through a couple of tips that I learned and the process that I'm going to go through to wall this off. Because it's only one room, it's square, I don't have to do the roof. I think it's going to be relatively straightforward, but I'm sure I'm going to run into some pain points along the way. So the most complicated part, I think, of this is going to be doing the drywall that goes up in between these joists up top. So what I plan to do, at least for this back wall, is to do drywall vertically. So instead of doing horizontal sheets, which would lead to more butt joints, I'm going to do vertical pieces, which will allow me to have no butt joints on this back wall. The way that drywall works is you have a butt joint cut end, and then you have the soft rounded over like smooth edges. And if you look very closely at those rounded edges, you'll notice that while the overall sheet is a 1/2 inch thick, on the very edge it dips in just a little bit. And the reason for that dip is so that when you put those two joints together, it allows space for you to actually put tape and mud in between, and you have to do, it's a lot easier to do the overall application of taping off those joints and smoothing those edges. When you are doing butt joints, which are either just the short ends of the material or any cut edges, it's a much more involved task of putting that tape and sort of finding a very long drawn out way to smooth those two pieces together, because you essentially have the taped mudded joint sticking out a little bit further than the material. So my overall process for pretty much everything in here, but at least this back wall, both side walls, honestly all of the walls, is to avoid doing any butt joints if possible, because as a noob, I just know it's going to be a lot trickier than a process that I'm already unfamiliar with. One thing that I really wish I had thought through, but I'm not really sure how I would have avoided, is being able to get a 10-foot sheet in this room, because it would make all of the horizontal joints like way easier. But there's no way for me to actually maneuver a piece that's bigger than 4x8 into here, just because of like where the window is, where the door is. Like there's just literally not enough distance. So that's why I'm going with the vertical joints. For anybody who's like in the comments watching this, I have read that like over really big spans doing vertical drywall is not like the best idea, because it can kind of like, by having it horizontal, it gives you more studs to attach to, so it's just going to be flatter. I don't really see how that's going to be a problem here, so I'm just going to go for it. So I have 1/2 inch 4x8 sheets of drywall. I have my big drywall square. I've never cut drywall before, but everything I read says have just a scoring blade, and then you can break those pieces apart. So what I'm going to start by doing is this back wall. I'm going to butt a piece that is cut to the proper width to line up with my studs up against the roof, so that then I can mark out where I need to cut out the notches for the joist, which are up here. And then I'm going to repeat that pattern across. I'm going to have to do it again for the joists that are up here as well. And then the side walls should be hopefully really straightforward. I just have to get that angle right there correct, but trigonometry, baby. One other thing that you have to do when doing drywall is make sure that you are taking accurate measurements of where all of your outlets need to be cut out, or electrical panels or light switches here. That's just something that's like, definitely measure it twice before cutting. I have done that a couple of times like in my shop, and I consistently got it wrong, and I've tried to learn from like what my mistakes are with that. So I don't know, we'll see. Because drywall can absorb moisture, it's best to place drywall 1/2 inch or more off of your subfloor. So I'm just going to use a 1/2 inch spacer and take that into account for all of my measurements. Once you put in flooring and trim or baseboards at the bottom, like all of that gets covered up anyway, so it's definitely something you should do. One other thing that I didn't take into account, and I researched it, when you are doing framing with the intention of doing drywalling, there is a specific type of corner joint that is called a California joint or a California corner. And essentially, I'm going to spin you around. Essentially, what it does is back in a corner like this, the framing for this wall right here is all the way back here. So there's nothing on this side to actually attach the drywall to. So a California corner is essentially what I went back and added, which is just some blocking for that drywall to rest up against. So it's going to rest up against the floor here. I have blocking there, and then obviously it's going to rest up against here. If you do a true California joist corner, whatever it's called, you'll have a beam that runs all the way here, and I'll put a visual of it. But I ended up doing that over here because I didn't have it, and I did some bigger ones in this corner and in this corner. So just like one more thing to take into account. So with all those like little tips in mind, new process for me, I will bring you along for the journey and show me installing it, and I'll call out like any other of the pain points that I seem to run into. I'm really hoping this process goes smoothly because I oddly think it's going to be enjoyable, and I'm really excited to enclose everything. And now that I've gone back and like double and triple checked all of every single like electrical thing, and everything is like ready to go for this, so it's a super exciting thing. Last thing that I'll call out is in a previous video when I was installing the receptacles that would eventually house the sconces that are outside, I was using wall-mounted plastic ones, which I truly don't know if those are rated for outdoors, but I did go back and I'll show you. I swapped them to these metal junction boxes, which seem to just be the overall like go-to of what I should be using. So I swapped those also, so nobody yell at me for using the wrong thing in a previous video, because I fixed it and they work great. Time to get started. So I've decided I'm going to start in this back corner, and the reason for that is from this corner to here to on center is 44 inches. It would be 48 inches, but that's from, if I was measuring from this outside stud, that's kind of where the California corner comes into effect. But that'll allow me to use the most of one piece of sheet here versus starting on that side and then having to work like I'm going to end up with the least amount of waste. So what I need to do is measure 1/2 inch off the ground to allow for the spacing to be off the subfloor up to this height right here, then the extra height here, and mark out where I'm going to notch out all of those so I can raise the piece up. One thing that I didn't think through, and I don't really know how I would have gotten around this at all, unless I literally didn't follow code, is these hurricane ties are going to be covered on this side, but you are going to see them on the beams up here. I've sort of just embraced that this is a mistake or like a visual thing I'm going to have to live with. The only way I could see doing this is like literally removing them, which I don't want to do because that's not how you build things. Or I could potentially cover these beams with like faux beams down the road if they're really bothering me. But I'm not going to do that right now.
Can I come in your office? Thanks.
Daddy's getting ready to hang up some stuff in the office. How was dance?
Good.
Yeah?
Why are you writing?
Drawing out a big straight line.
Why?
Because I'm measuring so I can put this in there.
No.
Yeah.
1 second.
Okay.
This goes off.
close. Just need to cut a little bit of relief. Totally wrong. Don't know how I did that. Gotta fix. Okay, number 2, lot smoother process. I learned so much. I'm gonna have to hide a lot of mistakes on that first piece. Piece number 1, piece number 2, a lot cleaner. And look, I got the outlet right. I got one whole side done. Those were a little trickier than I anticipated, but 0 butt joints, so feeling really good about it. Just gonna be rinse and repeat. I'm gonna do the opposite wall that has the sliding door on it next, and then finish off with the window and this wall right here. A full inch off. I've got this board secured in place in all of the critical points. I'm gonna take, I don't have one of those drywall trimmers, but I have a router with a flush trim bit. So I'm just gonna route out that piece here. It's probably gonna be super messy, but I think it's the cleanest way to do it overall. One thing I didn't anticipate is working with full sheets of drywall in a very tight space. I had to cut to width first so that I could then take the measurement. Well, I had to cut to width first before I could take the measurement of the angle up here and translate to the board, just so I could have the butt joint in the corner here and have the nice tapered edge here to make my mudding easier. I'm pretty bad at somehow measuring these boxes, so I'm just marking here and here, and I'm just going to put this piece in place and then cut around it with the power off. I also marked right here, and then on the upper side of the window, because once I get this enclosed, I'll know where I can start my router and route out the window perfectly. It fits. Got my last piece placed here, and I marked out exactly where my electrical box is. So I'm gonna pull it back off, use the jigsaw just to make it super easy to cut. That'll be the last piece I have to hang. From the looks of it, I think I marked it out properly. That's not right. Finished all of the main parts, and I have a couple of mess ups. I have no idea why I have so much trouble measuring out these gaps, but I've got one here to fix and one here to fix. Maybe one more in that corner. What I'm gonna do is just use thin strip to go behind in these areas where I can, and then I can screw those in from behind and then attach drywall on top of it, and then we'll end up mudding over to the seam. So I've never done this before, but I think it's pretty straightforward. It'll work.
All right, so that is gonna wrap it up for this episode. Hopefully that was entertaining, insightful, and you learned something along the way. Now, if you are watching these in real time, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so that you can be around and be notified when the next video in this series comes out. If you are watching these later on, I will have a playlist linked to every video that is launched right here, as well as the next episode in the series right here. If you have any questions about this project, materials, process, some stumblings that I went through, or you just want to generally understand where I got some of my information from so that you can combine it with this video and do your own research, please feel free to leave a comment, and like always, I would be more than happy to respond and give you as much information as I can. I'll see you guys next time on whatever it is that I'm building. Bye.